Welcome to Politics Nation. This week I traveled the country attending events commemorating the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. Meanwhile, President Trump continued to push for his agenda of America First, deploying National Guards to defend the border with Mexico, preparing to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria, and starting a trade war with China. See the connection? I do. Dr. King fought for world peace. In his last year, he was aggressive in questioning U.S. involvement in Vietnam and talking about the interconnectedness of global human rights struggles. As we remember Dr. King this week, we have a president that is playing one against the other. It's the Mexicans, even mentioning rape again, dividing, playing in a narrow kind of American nationalism. Seems the contrast is striking. And therefore, the mandate for those of us that believe in global human rights is clear. Joining me now is Atima Amara, president of Amara Strategy Group and former president of Young Democrats of America, and GOP strategist and author Noel Nickpour. Thank you both for being here. Let me go to you first, Noel. The president this week, he put sanctions on some of the Russian oligarchs and companies like Rusal, major aluminum company in the world, forcing American companies like Boeing can't buy their aluminum from this company. The second biggest company in aluminum is in China. Now he's put tariffs there. So he's really putting a real squeeze on a lot of American companies that he has said he'd be the champion of, which will cost jobs, close plants. How do you justify what he's doing to his own base? The tariffs that will affect farmers here when you're dealing with pork and other exports. I mean, he's hurting his own base that the GOP got elected on.
Well, Reverend, I think what Donald Trump is doing, there was an interview with Larry Kudlow in which he said, you know, this is a form of negotiation. So nothing really has happened yet, but I do understand your point. And I think that, you know, if it goes forward and we do have the tariffs, it's going to have some ramifications, that's for sure. Along with maybe collateral damage would be farmers, which is not good. But, you know, you've got to realize that I think while tariffs are not good, this has gotten the attention of the Chinese, and they have been stealing intellectual property. Now, with this said, I think that if we can get the Chinese to do some sort of a negotiation and get this right, then Donald Trump will be, you know, a hero with the base. But as you said, if this goes forward, and these things do happen, then it is going to hurt the base, and this might affect the midterms.
Oh, well, I mean, Noel, I think that is a very interesting defense. He may be just saying it as negotiating. He may be bluffing, but if he's not, it's going to hurt the base. I wouldn't want to be one that would be waging on that, because at the same time, we've got to remember here that we're talking about a president that pulled out of the trade agreement, the Asian trade agreement, that has opened the door for China to go into a lot of countries, Noel, and negotiate trade agreements since we pulled out. So I don't know if bluffing China is exactly something that's going to make them blink or not.
Well, hopefully he'll listen to Larry Kudlow. Larry Kudlow is a free trader. He's one of the best guys I know, and I'm glad that he's in the administration, and I'm glad that he's close to Trump.
Well, he's also a guy that
viewpoints
said
as
that
Gary Cohen.
He's also said he didn't know about the tariffs till the night before. So I don't know how far in he's in the administration. But Atima, well, how do you read this? I mean, the Republicans are saying, yeah, we might hurt the base. Yeah, it may be bad. Yeah, you're right, it could be collateral damage. Even the president said, you might suffer a little bit. But they're saying, but we may be bluffing, even though the Chinese really doesn't have a real motive to be intimidated at this point.
Yeah, I think for him, this is, a lot of America First talk. Actually, not a lot of action. I think he's bloviating just a little bit. I mean, a lot of folks want to say that he's an economic populist of some kind, when really, if he was, and he philosophically really believed that, then he would have built his own business empire, using, making American products in America as opposed to China, or actually hiring American workers at his resorts. I think this is just something that he cares about in regards to keeping the base motivated, because they sort of think, yeah, tax, extra on China, and I think that's a great idea. And he's constantly watching, the conservative media, which informs a lot of his base. And so if his poll ratings go up, which he's seen a little bit and used as justification for a lot of this blustering, then he's going to keep doing that. But I think at the end of the day, he's not really going to do anything that spooks Wall Street investors or hurts companies that benefit from imported goods like China, like his company.
Yeah, well, all right, but my concern is that I'm not as concerned about Wall Street, but as I am farmers and people that are on the ground, including his own base. And I think that Noel is right. It can affect the midterm elections. But let me go to something else. You talk about playing to his base, Atima. Let me before a minute, let me ask this. He went back on this whole rant about the FBI and they didn't go after Hillary. I mean, it seems like he goes all the time back to the same thing. He's once again using the name Hillary Clinton to excite his base, accusing the Department of Justice of, quote, slow-walking lawmakers' request for documents connected to a presidential election.
Yeah, absolutely. He is best when he has somebody who's foiling him, and that's clearly also the cues that, the conservative media have taken. Trump looked his best when, he had Hillary's doing this, Hillary's doing that, distracting away from anything that, he's doing. I would say, to your earlier point, I would agree with you on the fact that this will hurt, I think, American workers at the end of the day. And I think that specifically if you're looking at free trade agreements, if he was really interested in helping his base and people who are interested in voting for him and all of American workers, then he would be renegotiating free trade deals that would actually not have foreign workers getting paid slave wages, because the U.S. worker going up against that in a free trade agreement, which is the status now, American workers are going to lose every time.
And Noel, he went back to another favorite campaign hallucination when he started saying in his freestyling, because he threw the script away, so his freestyling in West Virginia about voter fraud. I mean, here we are commemorating Martin Luther King, who was instrumental in getting the Voting Rights Act. He's talking about voter fraud when many of us are concerned, and the last administration was about voter suppression. And he had a commission that has not been able to establish voter fraud. What voter fraud? People come from somewhere, millions of fraudulent votes, and they just evaporate in midair?
Well, Reverend, I think that, he likes to rally that base. And, whatever Donald Trump wants to talk about, he just goes off script and he rallies his base, and they love him. They showed up. Anyone that showed up at that West Virginia, rally, they're for Trump. So whatever Trump says, Reverend, they're for him. And, one of the things that he needs to be a little bit more concerned about is the Russian meddling in our elections.
That's right.
That's really alarming. Maybe he should have touched on that.
Well, and those are real people that don't evaporate in midair. I mean, we can't find these millions of people that cast these votes. We can find some Russian interference that has even been confirmed by his own intelligence. I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you, Noel and Atima.
Thank you.